So I mentioned already that Jason is editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine and is going to share many insights with you today. He has a long career, although he looks like such a young fella, in writing and being an editor in the magazine and publishing and newspaper business. This is really interesting. He and his wife have just written a novel, and it's going to be published this year. And the title of the novel is Mr. Nice Guy. And so I'm thinking, after meeting Jason, that he and his wife had himself in mind when they named this book. If you could pull that off, co-writing a book with your wife, then y'all have got a great relationship. And he's a really an incredible guy when it comes to entrepreneurship. So please give a warm Charleston welcome to Jason Feifer with Entrepreneur Magazine.
Oh, I've got a mic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, I've started building into my contracts and speaking gigs that the mayor of the city that I'm speaking in has to plug my novel before I talk. So that's going off really well. Thank you so much for the generous welcome. If you have been looking for press for your business, or if you ever are going to be looking for press for your business, I have a very harsh thing to tell you that I just want to put out there right now, and then we'll spend the next 30 minutes or so explaining and understanding it. Here it is. A journalist does not care about your business. Harsh, right? As the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine, I do care about your business. But as a journalist, they don't care about your business. And let's understand that. I get pitches all day. I get pitches all day. And you know what they say? They often say, I have a new product coming out and a story in your magazine would really help me. Or, you know, how can I get a story about our CEO in your magazine? I'd really like that. How can I go about doing that? And that reads to somebody in the media like you're trying to order a hamburger. You know, I'd like a story, please. And that's just kind of not how it works. Because the thing is about press that reaching out to the media is really no different than reaching out to a partner, a potential partner, or an investor or a customer. You have to understand what these people are looking for and how you can serve them. And if you can serve them, then you can get what you want too. And so the thing that you need to do when you reach out to press is to understand the person that you're reaching out to. So let's go back to it. A journalist doesn't care about your business. A journalist cares about their reader, about serving their reader. And if you can present yourself in a way in which you and your story is useful to their reader, then they do care about you. That's the distinction. So, in this talk, I'm going to explain the person that you're reaching out to, the journalist. Who are they? How do you understand them? How do you give them the thing that they're looking for? And then after that, we're going to go into my inbox. And if this email that you sent me shows up on this screen, please stay in your seat. We can discuss it later. But first, let's learn the journalist. I'm a journalist, let's learn me. Here I am. So that was me as an intern. Isn't that frustrating? You're like, look at the camera! Look at the camera! This anchor is like, whoever put this kid on the camera is getting fired as soon as this segment is over. This was me. I started out as we don't need to look at it, but that's enough of that. So I started out as an intern at a local newspaper, and then I got a job at a local newspaper. It was called the Gardner News, 6,000 circulation daily newspaper in north central Massachusetts, writing about nothing, because there was nothing happening. Anybody been to a zoning board of appeals meeting? Don't go, the mayor probably has. Don't go to a zoning board of appeals meeting. It is so boring. That is what I was trying to do, find stories there. After a year of that, I just had enough. I quit because I had decided that the people who I wanted to write for, the New York Times, the Washington Post, magazines in New York, that those people were not reading the Gardner News. They were never going to come to me. I needed to go to them. So I quit that job, and I sat in my cheap bedroom in north central Massachusetts, which was next to a graveyard, and I sat there every day looking out upon my career. And I pitched. I pitched stories. I pitched stories everywhere, and I landed something in the Washington Post health section, and in the Boston Globe, and the Associated Press, and then I got another community newspaper job because I was lonely. And I worked that for about 2 years, and I kept freelancing, and I got this regular, steady thing going at Boston Magazine. And after a year or so, I saw some movement. There was a senior editor who was leaving, and then there was a junior editor who was probably going to move up and take that senior editor's position, and that meant that there was a junior editor position that was open, and I wanted it. That was my position. So what did I do? I quit the newspaper, and I moved to Boston, and I got a very expensive apartment that was not next to a graveyard, and I said, I'm ready to be hired. And amazingly, the editor-in-chief of Boston Magazine did hire me. Had he not, I do not know what I would have done, but he did. And from there, I got a job at Men's Health. I moved to New York. Then I went to Fast Company, Maxim, Entrepreneur. I wrote for GQ, Slate, Popular Mechanics, kind of all over the place. And the reason I'm telling you this is that every journalist that you meet will have some version of a story like this. Risks that were taken for an industry that they love, for something, a job that they feel lucky to have. Lucky. You know, entrepreneurs will say, rightfully so, that if you can do anything but be an entrepreneur, go do that. Because being an entrepreneur is really, really hard, and you only do it if you have to do it. And journalists say the same thing. They say the same thing about their own industry. You only do this if you love it so much that you cannot imagine doing anything else. That's the person you're reaching out to. That is not someone who likes to sit around and wait for press releases and then write up the press release, right? Never in the history of a newspaper newsroom has somebody run across the newsroom and high-fived the reporter and said, I just got the best press release. Like never, it's never happened. So, what are they looking for? Well, they're looking to tell amazing stories, stories that they are really excited about, and they're really excited about the reader that they're serving. And so they have that reader in mind. So when you reach out, you're reaching out to someone who's looking for stories, who loves to tell stories, who's not in the business. They don't see themselves as in the business of serving you. So you need to give them something that makes them excited to tell the story to their reader. Now, how do we do that? Let's step back from the journalist and let's talk about you. Because if you're reaching out to press, you're reaching out strategically. There's a reason that you're doing it. And so if you're going to reach out to press, the very first thing that you need to ask yourself is, what do I need to get out of a story in the media? What do I need right now? Because press is a tool. You know, you don't reach out to an investor just to reach out to an investor. You don't like raise money if you have no reason for the money. So you need to have a reason. Here are great reasons. I have a new product that's launching and I need to reach my consumer. Or I'm going out and I'm going to raise money and so I need to look impressive to investors. Those are good reasons. Bad reasons? Because I deserve it. Because it makes me feel good. These are things that I talk to people, and sometimes they're looking for press, and that's the only explanation that they can give me. That is a bad explanation. So, you've thought about it, you have a reason. Next thing you need to do is you need to pick a publication that can get you the thing that you are looking for, because not every publication is the same, and not every piece of press is going to get you the same thing. Let me give you an example of that. I got a pitch once from a guy who had launched a Kickstarter for a certain kind of beer bottle opener. I'll try to explain it. So it's like, you know, the beer bottle, you put it on the top of the thing, and then you have a beer. So, but it's a longer platform, right? So it's longer. It's like you put it on the thing, and it rests, and it's longer. And why is it longer? It's longer because there's this big thing, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take your fist and slam it down and hit the thing, and the beer bottle cap goes flying. Now, why would anybody want that? I have no idea. Because they're in a frat? I don't know. I don't know why anybody would want that. But he pitched it to me. Now, that is the wrong audience for a lot of reasons. But let's just assume that frat boys would want this thing. So how do you reach them? Well, it's not through Entrepreneur Magazine, because first of all, Entrepreneur Magazine is being read by people who are not thinking of themselves as consumers, they're thinking of themselves as creators. So they are not even in a buying mindset when they're coming to us. What you need to do if you're selling the thing that makes the cap fly is you need to go and pitch it to Ask Men or Maxim or Men's Health or something where you have a consumer-focused reader who's young and male. There's no reason to have emailed me. Now, just emailing me, not a big deal, no problem, but just imagine how that scales. If he emailed me, that meant that he also spent time tracking down emails for all sorts of other people, for all sorts of other completely irrelevant publications. Lots of wasted time. You guys are busy. Do not waste your time on this stuff. So, once you've picked your publication, the next thing that you need to do is you need to understand how those publications tell stories. It's actually not that complicated. If you pick up a magazine or you go to a website and you spend some time, do this next time. Just next time you're reading anything, think about what the person who wrote or edited this story was trying to accomplish with this story. What's in this thing? What is this? Who's it reaching? What you'll start to see is that, in fact, there are significant distinctions between how products that you might think are very similar are actually talking in totally different ways. For example, a business publication. Fast Company. Fast Company is very focused on disruption, and they're really interested in how companies are reinventing industries. Entrepreneur. This magazine is about problem solving. You'll see that basically every story in Entrepreneur Magazine is in some way or another about somebody figuring out a solution to a problem. That is the story that we tell. And so the stories that interest me the most are the ones that have that element at their core. Let me give you an example of a great pitch that I once got so you can see where that's going. So I got pitched once this. It's a butter dish. Ta-da! But it's a butter dish on a hinge. Ta-da! Now, why is there a butter dish on a hinge? Because, just quick fact about butter, maybe you all know this, it's a very foodie town, you don't have to refrigerate butter. You can leave it out, and then it's nice and warm and easily spreadable. But the problem is, of course, that if you have warm butter in a butter dish where you lift the thing, then the thing gets bumped on the butter, and there's butter everywhere, and that's a big mess. So, this woman who runs a company called Buttery, came up with the butter dish on a hinge. Very clever. Okay, now that's not the problem solved. Now that is a problem solved, but that's every entrepreneur's story, right? We always see some kind of problem, produce a solution. The problem that I'm talking about is the problem inside your business. When she emailed me about her butter dish, and then she told me this fascinating thing that she did, which was this. When she was launching this thing, she approached a company that does market research. She wanted to know what colors she should make it in, what the price should be, all this basic stuff. And the market research firm quoted her $10,000. And she did not have $10,000. So what do you do? Here's what she did. She figured out that she could go to airports, like if she had a flight somewhere, she would just show up 5 hours early, and then get through security, and what did she have in front of her? She had a group of people who had literally nothing better to do than answer questions about butter dishes. Nothing better to do. And what's more amazing is that if you go to gate 1 and you ask all the people about butter dish, by the time you get to gate 8, it's a whole bunch of new people at gate 1. You can just keep doing this all day. It's genius. It's wonderful, right? And the greatest thing about this story is that I can stand up in front of a room full of people who probably are not selling butter dishes. Maybe. Is there a butter dish person? No hands. And yet you all appreciate that, right? That's a great story for us. Something where somebody figures out something in an industry and it's relatable to everybody else. That's what I'm looking for. So when somebody sends me a pitch that's like that, I pay attention. That is someone who spent time seeing the kinds of stories that I run. She realized problem-solving stories. That's what's in this magazine. And when she reached out to me, she told me about a problem she solved. Now, let's say that you do that and it still doesn't land. Could happen. Here's a tip. Sometimes you are not the story. Whatever the timing is, you're not reaching the right publication. Everybody wants that great big feature on themselves. Sometimes that's not going to happen, but sometimes you can be part of the story. You know your industry considerably better than the person that you're reaching out to. A journalist is not an expert in the way that you are an expert. I mean, did you just listen to my background that I just gave you? Does it sound like I should be running a business magazine? I didn't run a business, right? It's obnoxious that I'm running a business magazine. I didn't run a business. It's obnoxious. But that's the industry. That's the industry. What I am is I'm a guy who knows how to make magazines. I'm a guy who understands media and storytelling. But I'm not an expert. You're an expert. So you're seeing things that I am not. You're seeing fascinating things that are happening in your industries that I am not. And if you can tell the journalist, hey, here's this super interesting thing that's happening, and I think that you'd be interested in it for X, Y reasons, and I am whatever, however you're a part of it, you've been experiencing it, then that can be really useful. Here's an example. I had a guy who reached out to me once with a cat toy called the Ripple Rug. Okay, quick thing on the Ripple Rug. So it's a rug, and then there's another rug on top of it. But the rug on top of it is kind of rumpled, and there are holes in it, and the cat does the cat thing, and that's the Ripple Rug. And he reached out to me, and he pitched me the Ripple Rug, and I responded, and I said, thank you, but it's just not for us, right? We're not Cat Toy Monthly. And he responded, and he said, well, if you're ever interested in a story about a crazy scam that's happening on Amazon and eBay that nobody knows about, let me know. You gotta say yes to that, right? So I call him up, and here's what he tells me. It's crazy, maybe you've heard of this. It's called Amazon to eBay arbitrage. And it goes like this. So Fred makes the Ripple Rug. He puts it on Amazon. Let's say, I don't remember what it costs, but let's just say that it costs $30. So it's on Amazon for $30. That's how he's selling the Ripple Rug. Now, there is somebody who has purchased arbitrage software, and the arbitrage software scans through Amazon looking for best-selling items, copies the listing, copies all the text and the photos, and then creates eBay posts of that product and jacks the price. Okay? So now it's on Amazon for $30. And it's on eBay for $45. And if you, the customer, are going around eBay and you stumble across the Ripple Rug on eBay, and you're like, that's perfect for my cat, and you buy the thing for $45, guess what? The arbitrage person, who you don't know exists, of course, just goes over to Amazon and buys it for $30 and has it shipped to you and pockets the difference. It's genius and really frustrating. Really, really frustrating. Because if you're Fred, the guy who made the Ripple Rug, so you're the customer. The Ripple Rug shows up to you at home in an Amazon box. And the first thing you do is you open it and you give it to your cat, and that's great. But you're thinking, wait a second, why did this thing show up in an Amazon box? I bought it on eBay. So what do? Well, you go onto Amazon, and you look up the Ripple Rug, and you discover that it's $15 cheaper on Amazon. And now you're pissed because you think that you were ripped off. And who are you pissed at? You're pissed at the Ripple Rug because you don't know the arbitrager exists. And so you stuff that thing back in a box, and now it's covered in cat hair, and you send it back to Amazon, and it makes its way back to Fred, the guy who made the thing, and now he's hit with all sorts of fees. And that's why he's pissed, and that's why he wants to tell me about this. And that is fascinating. And so we ran this large story about it. Here it is, The Curse of the Rogue Salesman. So Fred, by telling me about this thing, got a 6-page feature in Entrepreneur Magazine. Pretty good, right? Way better than if I was just going to write about his cat toy. I don't know how large that would have been, 100 words. This is huge. And in fact, this thing was so big, first of all, it blew up online because people knew about this, but nobody in the kind of mainstream press had known about it. And then Planet Money, an NPR show that's amazing, did an episode based on this story that I wrote. And so then he got even more attention. He got a lot of sales out of this crazy thing. And he did it because he ultimately told me something that he was a part of, but it wasn't just a story about him. So I think it's time to start digging into the inbox. Again, stay seated if your email shows up here. I'm going to show you 5 emails, and then we can talk. All right. Number 1. Good afternoon. We want to do an article about a new person we hired. Is that something we could do in your publication? You laugh, but I get this stuff all the time. This is what I'm talking about when people are trying to order a hamburger. Doesn't this read like you're trying to order a hamburger? I would like a story in your publication, please. with fries. Like, it's so weird. So, okay, I mean, a couple things about this pitch. The most important one I have right there, be realistic about what's news. Think about it this way. A publication is going to cover you once. Maybe twice, but probably once. Is this the story that you want? The new person that you hired, is that the story? Or do you want to wait until you've got something great? Something that really knocks it out of the park, something that's perfect for what you are looking for. Because right back at the beginning, I was talking about how a story should be useful to you. You have to have a goal. This can't possibly be the goal. What would this be? So I think people need to really, you don't just go out to get it because it is there. You go out when it's really, really important. Here's another one. Hi there, Jason Feifer. We have an amazing boss here at whatever. His name is whatever. Oh yeah, wait, can we just also, the subject line, how can we get a mention or article written on our amazing boss? Another hamburger order. Anyway, he started the company in 2010 with the goal of making every office a lot more healthy with standing desks. By the way, can I just say, this is not the point of this, but when you're reaching out to someone, you have to remember what people are passionate about and the world that they live in. You're reaching out to people who indulge in language for a living. Here's how I read it. With the goal of making every office a lot more healthy with standing desks, right? Don't capitalize things that don't need to be capitalized. It's basic. Okay. He has true integrity and sells only the highest quality of products. His customer service focus is also A++. We would love a chance to tell his amazing story on your website and in publications. Multiple publications, apparently. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the reason that I put this one up here, because I get a lot of versions of this. What makes you unique? The very first thing you just thought of, throw that out. That's not the answer. What makes you unique? Here are things that I get all the time. I'm a mom who started a company. I'm a mompreneur, or whatever that unpronounceable word is. I'm a 21-year-old who started a company, whatever it is. People often think that they are unique for something that they are in fact not unique for. I get emails about mompreneurs and 21-year-old entrepreneurs all day. That is not what makes them unique. What makes them unique is that they figured out how to do market research at the airport. That's the stuff that makes you unique. You got to think about what are other people saying to me that you can be different from. Somebody who has true integrity and sells only the highest quality of products in his customer service is A++. That is not unique, right? Literally everybody would say that about themselves. That's not unique. All right, another one. All right, so this one's from LinkedIn. Hi, Jaden. It's Jason. It's Jason, just in case somebody was like, is his name Jaden? No, it's Jason. My producer says he would like to book me on your podcast. What's your email? Okay, so like so many different things are wrong here. So many different things. But aside from the really obnoxious thing where it's like some other person thinks that you're interesting, I don't know, but you know, here's the thing, actually, the reason that I put this up here, aside from that it's ridiculous and you should never send something like this and get to know people's names, what's your email? So let's pause on that. First of all, my email's really easy to find. It's really easy to find. Like it's literally all over the internet. It's also in every issue of the magazine. But also, what's your email is friction. It's friction, right? It requires me to write the person back so that they can write me so that I can write them back again. That's a lot of friction. If you are going to reach out with something, make sure that you have your best one shot at doing it. A version of this that I see all the time that's not as obnoxious as this, but is still, I think, too much friction. We haven't really talked about this on stage yet, but there is also, of course, the contributors side, where entrepreneurs are invited to write for websites like entrepreneur.com and others. We call those contributors. So everybody is emailing me and the rest of the staff all the time about becoming a contributor. And here's frequently what they do. They email with some kind of like starting point of a thing that's going to take like 4 different engagements. Like, are you taking new contributors? How can I become a new contributor? Is there whatever, right? Or like, I would like to write a contributor piece on this, and there's like 1 sentence on something. If you have one shot at somebody's attention, don't make it about trying to get their attention a second time. Use that first attention. So what should you do if you want to get attention for your contributor idea? Write the whole thing out. Literally the whole thing. Write a story. It doesn't take that long. These things are like 700 words. Write that story. Submit it. Like send it to an editor. Be like, I wrote this. What do you think? Now that, if I'm going to pay any attention to it for a minute, you've got me. No friction. Hello, Jason. My name is blank, and I work in the franchise department here at blank. I was wondering who I would speak to about possibly having an article featured in your magazine. As a big fan of your magazine, I would feel it would be a great exposure for our brand. We recently ranked in your top 500 franchise magazine, and I would love another opportunity to be featured. Okay, this is just a callback to what I was talking about. They want, and I get it. I get that when you are reaching out to press, you need something. You want something. You're not reaching out just for fun. You're looking for something. But you can't make that the thing that you're presenting when you're reaching out. This is only about them. This tells me absolutely nothing about what I would get out of this. How is this interesting to my reader? What is happening at your company that would be interesting? It doesn't tell me that at all. Do not focus on you and what you want. Focus on what I'm looking for. And when you do that, I will be more I will see the opportunity. I'll see the opportunity. All right, I got one more. So this was a tweet. Flipping houses is trendy, but ever hear of wholesaling house contracts? Interested in that, bro? I mean, I don't think I have to explain the lesson on this one. But, nah, bro. Nah, bro. So, those are the 5 emails. I've just spent some time, we've all spent some time ripping apart a bunch of people who sent me bad pitches. It may sound discouraging. I hope it wasn't discouraging, because here's the really important takeaway that you should have on seeing stuff like this. You are, and this is true in so many contexts, not just a journalist's inbox, you are, of course, up against a lot of people, and whatever it is that you're trying to do, but you're often not up against a lot of people who are going about it the right way. You're not up against a lot of quality, I guess. You're not up against people who have spent the time to really understand it and do it right. You're up against a lot of people who are just blasting out bruh emails or tweets or whatever. And if you just spend the time to really focus on who it is that you're reaching out to, what it is that they're looking for, you rise above the rest. I tell you the stories of the Buttery and Fred with the Ripple Rug. Those are stories that I loved, but I gotta say, those are also rare stories. They're rare stories in my experience. Most things that come my way are delete, 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 delete. And it's infrequent that somebody reaches out to me and they have clearly, carefully thought out how they're reaching out. And if you do that, I guarantee you that you stand out from most of the other noise. So, with that, I would love to take some of your questions. I'm out of this time, but this was set at 25 minutes instead of 35 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer. If not, I can ramble a little bit more. Yes, sir.
Okay, so do you have any examples? Okay. Do you have any examples of a good pitch?
Yeah. Do I have any? He asked me if I have any examples of a good pitch. Yeah. Let me give you. Let me give you an example So I have a podcast. I should show my promotional thing here. So these are 2 podcasts that I do, in addition to the book that the mayor was so nice to mention. One is called Problem Solvers, and it is for entrepreneur. It is, as you might imagine, a podcast about entrepreneurs who solve problems in their business. And I will tell you something. Most people who pitch me that do not tell me a problem that was solved. They don't. They send me the stuff that you saw earlier. It's like, here's a pitch for problem solvers. I have a company and our service is A++. So here are the greatest pitches that I've gotten for problem solvers. There have been some people who have listened to problem solvers, have seen that the format of problem solvers is I explain the problem and then I explain how they solved it. That's the format. If you listen to it, it's 15 minutes long. It's got a delivery, and they tell it to me in that way. They email me and they say, here are 3 problems that I solved and how I solved them. Problem number 1, I did this, and here was the solution, this. It's amazing. It's really interesting because there have been people. There was a guy, for example, Tactic Solutions or something like that. He was like a random logistics company guy in like Texas or something, and he had emailed me with this fascinating pitch for problem solvers. And I did a story. It was so random, this company. There's no other way that a random logistics company would have ever ended up on my radar, but he listened to problem solvers and he saw how his experience could relate to the kinds of things that I do on the show. And he said, Jason, I love the show. And by the way, can I also say, I will speak for all journalists right now. We are not here to be flattered. You do not need to flatter us. It's not part of the job. I don't need to be flattered. But like with anything, when you're reaching out to somebody, keep in mind that they're human. And humans, everybody, all of us in the room, everybody that you work with, we all want one thing, literally one